So as the top 12 Democrat candidates take to the stage tonight, it looks like it's going to be a battle for the far left party between Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Now, Sanders is wanting the socialist title, and he has a tax plan to prove he is the top socialist. Take a look at that chart, folks. Talking about the top corporate rate, taking that back to 35%. But then there's that special billionaires tax. That could be 97%. Joining me now to discuss, the author of How Do I Tax Thee, Kristin Tate. All right, Kristin, Bernie's saying, listen, Elizabeth Warren, you're just too capitalist. How dare you only want to take the billionaire tax to 60%? But it's not necessarily a laughing matter, because they are pretty formidable right now of the top three candidates.
Right. Well, it's absurd that any of these Democrats would think that America's richest people would give over 97% of their income to D.C. bureaucrats. I mean, it's just ridiculous. First of all, Congress would never pass tax rates that high. So likely a lot of these policy proposals are just part of a dog and pony show for the Democratic primary. But even if rates were to get that high, I mean, the rich would find ways around it. Back in 1979, the highest marginal tax rate was 70%, but virtually no high earners actually paid that percentage, because they did things like taking deferred income and trading general income for stock options. But ultimately, Charles, people are very mobile, and if the taxes got high enough and it became oppressive enough, I think a lot of wealthy Americans would just pack up and go to more tax-friendly countries. We've seen the same thing happen on the state level when New York and New Jersey raised their taxes dramatically. We saw a flight of the rich to places like Texas and Florida.
So if that happened, and of course this is assuming one of them won, then they would have these grandiose plans to pay for. They'd have to go to the next available tax bracket. I mean, essentially what we're talking about, Kristin, and what people should be concerned about, is they always start with the billionaires, but somehow these numbers always trickle down to households with $200,000 in income, sometimes less.
Right. I don't think this economic buffoonery is going to work on most working-class Americans who are intelligent enough to understand that you cannot fund trillion-dollar promises by only raising taxes on billionaires and corporations. Presidential elections are heavily dependent on the state of the economy, but right now these Democrats cannot run on fixing the economy, so instead they are resorting to politics of envy, and they are hoping that promises of free stuff paid for by rich people and corporations are going to mobilize their naive voting base. It may work for some deep blue pockets of the country, but I have a feeling, Charles, that in the general election, this strategy will fail miserably, and Donald Trump will destroy whoever the nominee is on the issue of the economy.
Kristin, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Always great seeing you.
Thank you, Charles, and happy anniversary at Fox Business.
Oh, thank you very
years.
much.
Big deal.
Speaking of 12, we've got 12 Democratic health